The chamber was massive, it stretched so far that the walls disappeared into shadow. Thousands of beings filled the space, representing every species in the known galaxy. Some had scales, some had fur, some were made of light itself. All of them were angry. Commander Desung stood at the center of it all, alone on a platform that felt far too small. He was tired, so very tired. This was the 5th emergency session this month. The 5th time he had to explain the same thing, the 5th time no one would believe him. Elder Thaxmore spoke. First, he was a Velaran, tall and covered in crystalline armor that glowed with inner fire. His voice boomed through the chamber like thunder. 543. Thaxmore said, that is how many of our greatest warriors have vanished after encountering your species. 543 of the strongest beings in the galaxy gone without trace. What have you done with them, human? Desung took a slow breath. He had learned not to react quickly in these meetings. Quick reactions made them think he was hiding something. We have done nothing to them, he said. His voice was calm and steady. As I have explained before, they are all safe. They are all healthy. They are simply choosing to remain in human territory. The chamber erupted in angry sounds, clicking, roaring, and noises Diang had no name for. A representative from the Court Empire, a species that looked like walking shadows, stepped forward. Lies. The shadow hissed. Our people do not simply abandon their duties. You have taken them. You have done something to their minds. We have not, they said. Then where is Supreme Enforcer Koth? Thaxmore demanded. He was the most powerful telepath in 12 galaxies. He could shatter planets with his thoughts. He went to investigate your colony world 3 months ago. He never returned. His ship is still there, but he is gone. What happened to him? Desung felt a headache building behind his eyes. He knew about Kalmoth. He had read the reports. He knew exactly where the Supreme Enforcer was and what he was doing. The problem was that the truth sounded more unbelievable than any lie. He could tell. If I may, Desung said, I can show you his last transmission. We have it on record. Thaxmore's eyes narrowed. A holographic screen appeared above the chamber. It showed Kalmoth's face. He was enormous. Even on the screen, his skin was dark purple and covered in glowing marks that pulsed with psychic energy. His eyes held the kind of power that could break minds. In the recording, Koth looked confused. That alone was strange. Beings like him were never confused. They are not what we thought, Kalmoth said in the recording. His voice was quiet, almost wondering. I came here expecting resistance. I came ready to demonstrate our superiority, but they offered me tea. They asked if I was hungry. They asked if I wanted to sit down. He paused, looking at something off-screen. I need to understand. I need to know why they are like this. I am staying longer to investigate. Recording ended. The chamber fell silent. That was 3 months ago. Thaxmore said, where is he now? Desung pulled up another image. This one showed a small farm, a new soul colony. Fields of rice stretched to the horizon, growing in neat rows using advanced hydroponics. And there, kneeling in the mud beside a human farmer, was Kalmoth, the Supreme Enforcer who could destroy worlds. Was planting rice seedlings with his bare hands. He was smiling. Silence in the chamber grew heavier. This was taken yesterday, Desung said. Koth is currently living with a farmer named Hyan Wu. He helps with the farm, work, and the evenings they drink tea and talk about philosophy. Koth has sent several messages to us, saying he is happier than he has ever been. He asks that his people not worry about him. This is mind control, someone shouted from the crowd. It must be. We have tested every disappeared individual for mental manipulation. Desung said he had prepared for this. He always had to prepare for this. We have used tone telepaths, court shadow readers, and even Zathari truth sensors. There is no evidence of any kind of control or coercion. They are simply choosing to stay. Why? The question came from a small being near the front. Python scientist, barely 3 feet tall. Design looked at the small scientist. Finally, someone was asking the right question. I cannot speak for them, he said carefully, but from what I understand, many of them felt that their power was all they were allowed to be. They were bred for strength or born with abilities, and their entire lives were defined by those things. When they came to human worlds and saw that they could choose to be something else, to do something else, many of them wanted to try. Ridiculous, Thor said. Power is not a burden, it is a gift, it is purpose. Is it destined? If you never got to choose it, the question hung in the air. Many of the representatives shifted uncomfortably. The truth was that most advanced civilizations in the galaxy bred or engineered their elite for specific purposes. The strong were made to fight. The intelligent were made to research. The powerful were made to rule. Choice had nothing to do with it. This is destabilizing our civilizations, another representative said. Our warriors are abandoning their posts. Our enforcers are refusing to return. If this continues, our entire social structure will collapse. Desang wanted to say that maybe their social structure deserved to collapse. He did not. Diplomacy required him to be more careful than that. We are not forcing anyone to leave you, he said. Instead, we are not even inviting them. They come to us, they ask to stay. We ask them if they are certain. Most say yes. What would you have us do? Force them to leave, imprison them, send them back against their will? One force them? Yes, several voices said at once. Des closed his eyes briefly. This was the part he hated most, the part where he had to explain basic concepts of freedom to civilizations millions of years older than humanity. We cannot do that, he said. In human society, every individual has the right to choose where they live and what they do with their lives. We cannot violate that right even for beings from other species. Then you are weaponizing freedom, Thaxmore said. The anger in his voice was cold now. Dangerous. You are using your culture to steal our people. We are not stealing anyone. Des said he was getting angry. Now too, he tried to keep it out of his voice. Your people are choosing to leave. That is not the same thing. Supreme Enforcer Kalmoth would never choose to become a farmer, Thaxmore said. This is impossible. You have done something to him, then come see him, Des said. Talk to him yourself, ask him directly. We have nothing to hide. Thor stared at him for a long moment. The crystalline armor glowed brighter, reflecting his anger. Very well, he said. Finally, we will send an investigation team. They will discover the truth of what you have done, and when they do, humanity will answer for these crimes. Desung nodded slowly. He knew how this would end. The investigation team would come. They would talk to they disappeared. they would find no evidence of wrongdoing and they would be furious. Anyway, because the truth was harder to accept than any lie, the truth was simple and terrible. The strongest beings in the galaxy were choosing gentleness over power, and their civilizations could not understand why anyone would make that choice. As the session ended and Dasan walked back to his transport, he thought about Koth planting rice in the mud. He thought about the smile on the Supreme Enforcer's face, and he wondered how many more would disappear before the galaxy understood. Probably all of them. He thought, one by one they would all choose to leave, and their people would never forgive humanity for offering them that choice. Scholar Vexa had never failed at anything in her life. She was born with a mind that could process information faster than most computers. She had solved scientific problems that had puzzled civilizations for thousands of years. She had written treatises that changed how the galaxy understood reality itself. Now she stood on a human transport ship looking at Dae-sung across a small table, and she felt something completely unfamiliar. She felt uncertain. I want to make something clear, she said. Her voice was sharp and precise. I am not here to be friendly. I am here to discover what you have done to our people. I will find the truth. Dae-sung poured tea into 2 cups. He had learned that most aliens were confused by tea. They did not understand why humans spent time on things that were not strictly necessary. I understand, he said. You are welcome to investigate anything you wish. We have nothing to hide. That's not we have nothing to hide. Everyone says they have nothing to hide, Vextria said, usually right before I discover what they are hiding. Dae-sung smiled a little. Then I suppose you will be disappointed this time. The investigation took 3 months. Vextria traveled to 14 different human worlds. She interviewed 73 disappeared aliens. She used every scanning device, every lie detector, every truth-sensing technology available. And she found nothing. No mind control. No drugs, no coercion, nothing. It was impossible. It made no sense. And it was driving her mad. On Earth, in a city called Seoul, she found Warm Master Thalen. He had been one of the most feared warriors in the galaxy. His species, the Corfax, were bred for combat. They were 8 ft tall, covered armor plating, and strong enough to bend steel with their bare hands. Tolkien had personally conquered 47 worlds. She found him teaching a martial arts class to human children. Vextria watched through the window of the dojo. Inside, Tolkien was showing a small human girl, maybe 7 years old, how to stand properly. His massive hands were gentle. As he adjusted her posture, the girl was not afraid of him. She was smiling. When the class ended, Vextria approached him. The children ran past her laughing and shouting. Tolkien was cleaning the practice mats. War Master, Vextria said formally. Tolkien looked up. He did not look like a war master anymore. He was wearing simple human clothing. His armor plating, usually polished to a threatening shine, was dull and peaceful. Not War Master, he said. His voice was deep but soft. Just though. Now can I help you? I need to understand why you are here. Vextria said. You were the strongest warrior of your generation. You led armies. You were unstoppable. Why are you teaching children basic movements? Th sat down on a bench. He gestured for her to sit too. She did, though she kept her scanning devices active. I was the strongest, Th said. That is true. From the moment I was born, I was trained to fight, to kill, to conquer. I was never allowed to be anything else. If I showed gentleness, I was punished. If I showed mercy, I was beaten. The strong must be strong, they told me always. And here Vextria asked. Looked back at the dojo. Here, a woman named Sujin asked me if I wanted to teach, not because I was strong, not because I was useful. She asked if I wanted to, if it would make me happy. He paused. No one had ever asked me that before. You are wasting your potential, Vextria said. You could be leading armies. Instead, you teach children. I was leading armies, said. I was killing and destroying, and being the weapon I was made to be. I was powerful. I was feared. I was miserable. He looked at her directly. Crimit Mara, wary and resigned. I was nod comment. He looked at her directly. Crimit Market. I was weapon here. I am happy. That is not a waste. Vextria made notes. No signs of manipulation. He believed every word he was saying. She moved on to the next interview. On a hospital ship orbiting Mars, she found Psi Mother Yalnus. Yalnus had been the most powerful telepath in recorded history. She could hear thoughts from across star systems. She could read minds so deeply that people had no secrets from her. She had served as the chief interrogator for the Python Empire. Now she worked in a hospice, holding the hands of dying humans. Vextria watched as Yaln sat beside an old human woman. The woman was weak, barely breathing. Uns held her hand gently, saying nothing, just being present. When the woman passed away, Yalnus cried. Vexistria had never seen a python cry before. Their species considered emotions to be inefficient. Why are you here? Vextria asked when they were alone. Yalnus wiped her eyes. I could hear a billion thoughts, she said, every moment of every day. Thoughts of criminals I interrogated. The thoughts of prisoners I broke. The thoughts of innocents whose minds I invaded without permission. I heard everything. I understood everything. I was the perfect tool. You were invaluable to your empire, Vextria said. I was dying inside, Yelna said. Every day I heard the pain I caused. Every day I felt the fear and hatred directed at me. I was so powerful and I was so alone. No one wanted to be near someone who could read their deepest thoughts. And here, a human doctor named Tao asked me if I wanted to use my abilities differently. He asked if I would help people who were dying, not by reading their minds, but by sitting with them, by being present in their final moments, so they would not be alone. You are wasting your power, Vextria said. You could be solving crimes, preventing wars, reading the minds of enemies. I was doing all of that, Yelny said. I was useful, I was necessary, I was drowning in the thoughts and pain of others. Here I choose when to listen, I choose how to help, and yes, I still hear their thoughts sometimes, but now I hear gratitude instead of fear. I hear peace instead of terror. She looked at Vextria with eyes that had seen too much. Is that truly a waste? Ah, Vextria made more notes. Still no manipulation. Still no coercion, just choice. In Nubusan, she found Battle King Morax running a soup kitchen. He had been the supreme commander of the Zactor fleets. He had destroyed entire civilizations that refused to surrender. Now he served food to homeless humans. Why? Vextria demanded. She was getting frustrated. Now why are you all doing this? Mords ladled soup into bowls. His massive Claws were surprisingly gentle with the fragile dishes, because I chose to, he said simply. That is not an answer. Vextria snapped. It is the only answer, Mord said. I spent 800 years being what others needed me to be. Weapon, a leader, a symbol of strength. I was never asked what I wanted to be. When I came here, a human named Dong Wu asked me that question. What do you want to be? I did not know how to answer. I had never thought about it before, and you chose this. Vextria gestured at the soup kitchen, serving food to the weak. I chose to help instead of hurt, Morok said. I chose to build instead of destroy. I chose to be gentle instead of terrible. For the first time in my life I chose. He looked at her. Can you say the same? Scholar, the question hit Vextria harder than she expected. She had been bred for intelligence, raised in isolation to maximize her learning. Every moment of her life had been scheduled, optimized, designed to make her more useful. Had she ever chosen anything, she left the soup kitchen without answering. Back on the transport ship, Desan found her staring at her notes, months of investigation. And she had nothing. No evidence of wrongdoing, no signs of manipulation, just hundreds of powerful beings choosing to be something other than powerful. I do not understand, she said to Des. Why would they give up everything, their status, their purpose, their importance? Desung sat down across from her. Can I ask you something personal, Scholar? She nodded stiffly. Are you happy? The question was so simple, so basic, and Vextria realized she had no idea how to answer it. Happiness is irrelevant, she said. I am useful, I am productive, I am fulfilling my function. That was not the question, Des said gently. Vextria opened her mouth to respond. She closed it again. She thought about her life, the constant testing, the isolation, the pressure to always be the smartest, the fastest, the best. She thought about how she had never had a conversation that was not about her work, how she had never spent time with someone just because she enjoyed their company, how she had never done anything simply because it made her feel good. I do not know, she whispered finally. That is what you do not understand about the disappeared. Des said they were like you, useful, productive, fulfilling their function. But they were not happy, and when they came to human worlds and saw that they could choose to be something else, they took that chance. But their civilizations need them, Vextria said. Without them, everything falls apart. Then perhaps, Desang said carefully, those civilizations were built wrong. Vextria sat in silence for a long time. Her notes spread out before her. 3 months of investigation, 73 interviews, thousands of data points. And the conclusion was simple and terrible. Humanity had not stolen anyone, they had simply offered a choice that no one else had thought to offer. And the strongest beings in the galaxy were choosing to be something other than strong. That night Vextria wrote her report. It was honest and thorough. It would make the council furious, and as she wrote it, she thought about Desan's question, are you happy? She still did not know the answer, but for the first time in her life she wondered if she should find out. The alert came at 3:00 in the morning, Earth Standard Time. Desung was pulled from sleep by emergency sirens and flashing red lights throughout the embassy building. What is it? He asked, stumbling into the command center. The technician on duty, a young woman named Bora, looked terrified. Sir, you need to see this. The main screen showed a ship, but calling it a ship was like calling a star a candle. It was enormous beyond comprehension. A construct the size of a small moon, appearing at the edge of human space. Its hull was black and covered in weapons, thousands of weapons, enough weapons to sterilize an entire planet. Identification. Design asked, though he already knew. There was only one being in the galaxy who commanded a vessel like that. It is Supreme Overlord Rath-Zul, Bora said. Her voice shook, the screen changed. Face appeared. It was almost human in shape, but that was where the similarity ended. Rath-Zul's skin was like polished obsidian, black and gleaming. His eyes burned with purple fire. Power radiated from him like heat from a star. He was ancient, older than most civilizations. He had conquered 10,000 worlds. He had destroyed species that had dared to resist him. He was by every measure the most powerful individual entity in known space. Humans, Rath-Zul said, his voice made the speakers crackle. I have heard interesting things about you. I have heard that you break the strong, that you take the mighty and make them weak, that my own enforcers and warriors abandon their duties to live among you. Like cattle, Desung felt his stomach drop. This was bad. This was worse than bad. I'm not like them, Rath-Zul continued. I'm not some enforcer or war master raster. I am the Supreme Overlord. I have broken empires. I have shattered planets. I'm unbreakable and I will prove it. Get me the council, Des said. Within minutes, the emergency channel was open. Representatives from across the galaxy appeared on screens around the room. Elder Thaxmore looked almost pleased, so Thaxmore said finally, you will face consequences. For what you have done, we have done nothing, Design said, and now you have brought the Supreme Overlord to our doorstep. If he attacks, millions will die, then return our people. Another representative said, give them back and perhaps Rath-Zul will show mercy. We cannot give back people who chose to leave. Desung said he was tired of repeating this. They are not prisoners. They are not controlled. They are free. Then you will deal with the consequences of that freedom, Thaxmore said. The transmission from Rath-Zul continued. I demand single combat with humanity's greatest warrior. Send them to my ship. If they survive, I will leave your space. If they do not, well, then the galaxy will see that humans are not so special after all. We need to respond. Bora said, what do we do? Desung thought fast. Single combat with Wrath. Zulu was suicide. The Supreme Overlord could move faster than eyes could follow. He could generate shields that stopped nuclear weapons. He could kill with a thought. There was no warrior on Earth, no soldier, no fighter who could possibly stand against him. Send a message to Earth Defense, Des said. Tell them we need to accept the challenge and tell them to find someone who, Bora asked, who could possibly fight him. Who could possibly fight him? I do not know, Dang admitted, but we have no choice. The message went out across Earth. Military commanders scrambled. Special forces were activated. Champion fighters were contacted. Everyone knew it was pointless. Everyone knew that whoever went would not come back, but someone had to go. The response came 6 hours later. It came from the civilian government, not the military. It was 4 words long. We are sending Kaiung. Des stared at the message. Who is Kaiungu? Bora pulled up a file. He is 19 years old, a university student in Seoul. He studies music composition, music. Desang said they are sending a music student to fight the Supreme Overlord. That is what it says, sir. This was insane. This was beyond insane. This was sending a boy to die. Des opened a channel to Earth Command. What are you thinking? He demanded. You cannot send a civilian student against Rithzul. He will be killed instantly, and the face on the screen was an older man named Quan, one of Earth's senior diplomats. He looked calm, too calm. Commander Desang Quan said, do you remember what happened with all the others, with Kalmoth, with Thalin? They chose to stay here, but that was different. They were not in combat. They were not facing death. Rathzul did not ask for a fight. Quan said he asked for our greatest warrior, but we do not measure greatness by fighting ability. We measure it by what people create, what they give to the world. Kyong-su is one of the most talented young composers in the country. He is our greatest. His own way he will die, Desung said. Perhaps, Wan said, or perhaps something else will happen. Trust us. Commander, the channel closed. Desung sat down heavily. This was madness, but it was happening whether he liked it or not. 24 hours later, a small shuttle left Earth. Inside was Kyong-su. Desung watched on the view screen as the tiny craft approached Rathzul's massive warship. It looked like a minnow swimming toward a whale. The galaxy watched too. Every species had their sensors pointed at this moment. Some hoped to see humanity humbled. Some hoped to see Rithzul defeated, though they knew that was impossible. All of them waited. The shuttle docked. Kyong-su stepped out into Rithzul's ship. Supreme Overlord waited in his combat arena. It was a massive space designed for battles between superhuman fighters. The floor was reinforced metal. The walls were lined with weapons. Energy fields hummed in the air. Rithzul stood in the center, arms crossed. He was massive in person, over 8 feet tall. Power crackled around him like electricity. Kyong-gu walked in. He was small by comparison, thin and young. He wore simple clothes, and he carried a cello case. Rothel stared at him. What is this? Where is your warrior? I am the one they sent, Kyong-gu said. His voice was quiet but steady. Are you Rath? I am the Supreme Overlord. Rathzul said. He sounded offended. And you are a child with a musical instrument? Is this a joke? Is this mockery? No, sir, Kyong-su said. He set down the case and opened it. Inside was a cello, old and well-used. I am sorry if this seems strange. I know you asked for our greatest warrior, but we do not really think about greatness that way. I am not a fighter. I'm a musician. Then you will die, Rathel said. He raised his hand. Energy began to gather around it. Before you do that, Kyong-gu said quickly, could I play something for you? Just one piece. It will only take a few minutes. Rathzul paused. Why? Because Kyong-gu said, lifting the cello from its case. You have probably never had the chance to just listen to music. I mean really listen, without thinking about conquest or power or anything else, just to hear something beautiful. I have heard music, Rathel said. I have heard the songs of 1,000 conquered worlds, but did you listen? Kyong-su asked. He sat down, positioning the cello. Or were you too busy conquering to actually hear it? Rathel said nothing. After a long moment, he lowered his hand. The energy dissipated. Play, he said. Then I will kill you. Kyong-gu nodded. He raised his bow, and he began to play. The piece was Bach's Cello Suite No. 1, simple, clean, perfect. The notes filled the combat arena, echoing off the metal walls. Kaungu played with his eyes closed, completely focused on the music. Wrath stood frozen. He had expected many things: weapons, tricks, desperate pleas for mercy. He had not expected this. Music was beautiful. That was the only word for it. It was not powerful like weapons or dominating like strength. It was simply beautiful, and Rethzul, who had spent 800 years conquering and destroying, and clears throat, proving his power, realized he could not remember the last time he had experienced something beautiful. Slowly, almost without realizing it, he sat down. He sat on the floor of his combat arena, weapons forgotten, and he listened. Su played for 6 minutes. When the piece ended, he lowered his bow and opened his eyes. Rothel sat in silence for a long moment. Why did you play that? He asked finally. Because you looked like someone who needed to hear something beautiful, Kaungu said. I am the Supreme Overlord, Rethzul said, but his voice was quiet now. I do not need beauty, I need power. Why? Kaungu asked. The question was so simple, so direct, and Rethzul realized he did not have an answer. Because I am powerful, he said. But is it what you want to be? Kaungu asked. Across the galaxy, on every Vukrine, beings watched in stunned silence as the Supreme Overlord, the most powerful entity in known space, sat on the floor with his head in his hands. I do not know, Rathel said. I have never thought about what I want, only about what I must do. Then maybe, Kaungu said gently, you should think about it now. Scholar Vextria submitted her report to the council. It was thorough, honest, and completely unsatisfying to everyone who read it. She had found no evidence of mind control, no drugs, no manipulation. The disappeared had simply chosen to stay with humans. The council rejected her findings. They demanded she investigate further. So she did. Something she had never done before. She stopped investigating and started living. She chose a city on Earth called Dew. It was not a major city like Seoul or New Busausen. It was smaller, quieter, more ordinary, and that was exactly what she needed. A human woman named Minso had agreed to host her. Arrangement was simple. Vextria would live with Minso and LT Unk and GT's family for 3 months, experiencing daily human life. Perhaps then she would understand what made their culture so appealing to the disappeared. Mio met her at the transit station. She was middle-aged with kind eyes and graying hair. Her daughter Hwan stood beside her, a teenager who kept glancing at Vextria with curiosity. Welcome to our home, Mio said. She bowed slightly, a human gesture of respect. Vextria returned the bow awkwardly. Thank you for accepting me. Of course, Minso said. Come, let me show you where you will stay. 3. Renai 3. Come to the 10. The house was small, much smaller than Vextria expected. In her world, space was allocated based on importance and function. She had assumed a host family would have significant accommodations. Instead, she found a modest 3-room house with a tiny garden. This is the guest room, Mio said, opening a door. It is not much, but I hope you will be comfortable. The room was simple: a bed, a desk, a window looking out on the garden. No laboratory equipment, no data terminals, no optimization for productivity. Where will I work? Vextria asked. Mo looked confused. Work, you are here to live with us, not to work, unless you want to work on something. I always work, Vextria said. I am a scholar, working is my function. Well, Minso said gently, perhaps for these 3 months you could try not having a function, you could just be Vex. Tria, the concept was alien. Literally, Vextria had never existed. Without a function before, the first week was torture. Every morning Minso asked her how she was feeling, every day. Hwan asked if she wanted to do something together. Every evening meal cooked dinner and expected Vextria to sit and eat and talk, not about work or productivity, but about nothing in particular. How was your day? Mao would ask. I accomplished nothing, Vexa would reply. That is not what I asked, Mo would say patiently. I asked how it was, not what you accomplished. Vextria did not understand the difference. On the 8th day she found Hwan doing homework at the kitchen table. The teenager was struggling with mathematics, scribbling numbers and crossing them out repeatedly. You are doing it wrong, Vextria said. She could not help herself. The errors were obvious to her superior mind. I know, Hwan said, frustrated. May I show you? Vextria asked. Would you? Hwan's face lit up. Vextria sat down and explained the problem. She broke it down into simple steps, showed the logic behind each one. Hwan understood quickly. Within minutes she was solving problems on her own. Thank you, Hwan said. That makes so much more sense. Now you are welcome, Vextria said. She felt something strange, a warmth in her chest. She had helped someone, not because it was her function, but because she chose to, and it felt good. Can I ask you something? Hay said. Of course. Why are you here? I mean, really, Mom said. You are investigating the disappeared aliens, but you do not seem to be investigating anything, Vextria. Consider the question. I am trying to understand why powerful beings would choose to give up their power to live among humans. I thought if I lived as humans do, I might find the answer. No. Clear's throat. Have you? Hwan asked. Not yet, Vextria admitted. Maybe you are looking for the wrong thing, Hwan said. She went back to her homework. The second week was slightly easier. Vextria found herself falling into rhythms. Morning tea with Minso, afternoon walks in the garden, evening meals together. She started to recognize the patterns of human interaction. The way Minso always asked about feelings, the way Hwan shared small stories from school, the way included her in everything even though she was an outsider. One evening Vextria was working late on her personal terminal. She was reviewing data from her interviews, trying to find patterns she had missed. It was past midnight when she heard a soft knock on her door. Hey, one stood there in pajamas holding 2 cups. I brought hot chocolate, she said. I saw your light on. You should be sleeping, Vextria said. So should you, Hey replied. She came in and set 1 cup on the desk. Can I stay for a bit? I cannot sleep. If you wish, Vextria said. Hay sat on the floor, leaning against the bed. She sipped her hot chocolate in silence. Vextria tried to go back to her work, but she found herself distracted by the quiet presence. Why are you here? Vextria asked finally. So you do not have to be alone, Hai said simply. Mom says everyone works better when they know someone cares. The words hit Vextria like a physical impact. In her entire life, no one had ever cared. Whether she was alone or not, her value was in her mind, not her company. She had been bred for intelligence, raised in isolation to maximize learning. Other beings had only ever wanted her for what she could do, never for who she was. "Thank you," she said quietly. They sat in companionable silence until Hewan fell asleep against the bed. Vextria put a blanket over her and went back to work, but something had changed. The data on her screen seemed less important than the sleeping teenager in her room. The third week, Minso taught her to cook. Vextria protested that cooking was inefficient when prepared meals were available. Mo laughed. "We are not cooking for efficiency," she said. "We are cooking to spend time together." They made kimchi jjigae, a spicy stew that filled the kitchen with warmth and smell. Vextria measured Clear's throat ingredients with scientific precision. Mo added pinches of things without measuring, tasting as she went. "You must be exact," Vextria said. "No." Mio said, "I must make it taste good." "That is different. How do you know it will taste good if you do not measure?" "Experience, intuition, feeling." Mio smiled. "Not everything can be calculated." Vextria. As they cooked, Minso talked about her late husband, about raising Hwan alone, about the small joys of daily life. She did not ask anything of Vextria. She just shared her life openly, as if Vextria's presence was enough. When the stew was ready, they ate together. It was the best thing Vextria had ever tasted, not because of the ingredients, but because of the care that went into making it. "You have been taking notes," Mio observed, "about efficiency, about productivity. But that is not why they disappeared." "Stay, is it?" "Then why?" Vextria asked. "You are here to discover that," Mio said. "But I think you already know. You are just afraid to admit it." That night, Vextria could not sleep. She thought about the past 3 weeks, about Hewan bringing her hot chocolate, about Minso teaching her to cook, about the way they asked how she was feeling, not what she had accomplished. She thought about her life before, the isolation, the constant testing, the pressure to always be the smartest, the most productive, the most valuable. She had never had a conversation that was not about her work. She had never spent time with someone just because they enjoyed her company. She had never been useless and had anyone care that she existed anyway. The realization broke something inside her. She started crying, not quiet tears, but deep, wrenching sobs. She cried for the life she had lived, for the loneliness she had never acknowledged, for the child she had been, who was bred to be brilliant but never asked if she was happy. The door opened. Mo came in and sat on the bed beside her. She said nothing. She just put her arm around Vextria and held her while she cried. When Vextria could finally speak, the words came out broken. "I have never had this in my whole life. No one has cared about me like this. I am only valuable when I am useful, when I am working, when I am being the brilliant scholar they made me to be. You are valuable because you exist," Mio said softly, "not because of what you can do, because of who you are. You are Vextria. That is enough." It was never enough before. Vextria whispered, "Then they were wrong." Minso said, "And maybe that is what you needed to understand about the disappeared. They were never allowed to be enough just by existing. Here they are. Here they can be themselves without being useful, and that is worth more than all the power in the galaxy." Vextria cried until she had no tears left. And then she knew. She finally understood why the strongest beings in the galaxy were choosing to stay with Humans, because humans saw them as people, not functions, as individuals, not tools, as beings worthy of care, simply because they existed, not because of what they could do. The next morning, she began writing her final report. It was honest and complete. It would make the council furious. And when she finished, she made a choice. She resigned from the investigation. She was staying on Earth. She wanted to open a bookstore. 1 year had passed since Kaunsu played cello for Supreme Overlord Ratho. 1 year since the most powerful being in the galaxy sat down and listened to music. 1 year since everything changed. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other. Displays showed statistics that made the situation clear. 30% of the galaxy's elite had now disappeared into human space. Warriors, scientists, leaders, enforcers, all gone, all choosing to stay with humanity. Elder Thaxmore stood at the center trying to maintain order. He had aged in the past year. The crystalline armor that covered his body had dimmed. The fire that once burned in his eyes was now just embers. This cannot continue, he said. His voice was tired. Our civilizations are collapsing. Our military forces are understaffed. Our research facilities operate at half capacity. Our enforcement systems are failing. All because our best and brightest are abandoning us for human worlds. It is not abandonment, a voice said from the back. It is choice. The chamber fell silent. Everyone turned to look at the speaker. It was Supreme Overlord Ratho, but he was different now. The burning eyes had softened. The obsidian skin no longer radiated menace. He wore simple human clothing instead of battle armor. He looked impossibly at peace. You said you are the reason we called this session. You were supposed to prove that humanity could be defeated. Instead, you joined them. I did, Rothsel said. He walked to the center of the chamber. His footsteps were quiet now, not the thunderous impacts they used to be. I came to prove I was unbreakable, that I was stronger than whatever spell humanity had cast over the disappeared. I was wrong. 9 They broke you. Someone shouted. They broke the Supreme Overlord. No, Rathel said. They freed me. He stood before the council, the being who had once conquered thousands of worlds. I want to tell you about my life. I was born powerful. From my first breath, I could destroy things with a thought. I grew stronger every year. By the time I was 20, I could shatter planets. By 50, I could break fleets. By 100, I was unstoppable. He paused, and I was alone, always alone, because everyone feared me, because my power was all I was allowed to be. I spent 800 years conquering, destroying, proving my strength over and over. Do you know why? No one answered. Because I had nothing else, Rathel said. Because being powerful was the only thing I knew how to do. Because no one ever asked me if I wanted to be something different. What did the humans do to you? Thackmore asked. They gave me a choice, Rathel said. A human child named Kaiwungsu asked me if I was happy. I realized I did not know what happiness felt like. I had never had the chance to find out, so I stayed. I learned, and now I teach music on Earth. You teach music, Thaxmore said. He sounded disgusted. Yes, Rathzul said, and I am happier than I have ever been in 800 years of conquest, because I chose it, because every day I wake up and decide to be gentle instead of terrible. That choice That freedom is worth more than all the power I ever had. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives stood shouting. Accusations. Cultural warfare, mental manipulation. The destruction of galactic order. Enough, a new voice said, Commander. Desang walked into the chamber. He looked tired, but his back was straight. He had prepared for this moment for a long time. You want to blame humanity for what is happening, Desang said. You want to say we have stolen your people, that we have done something wrong, but the truth is simpler and more painful than that. He pulled up a holographic display. It showed statistics from across the galaxy. These are the disappeared. Every one of them was powerful. Every one of them was important to your civilizations. But look at this data. Look at what they all have in common. The display changed. Survey responses appeared. Questions about happiness, about choice, about freedom. The answers were devastating. 98% report that they never chose their role in society. 95% say they were not allowed to pursue interests outside their designated function. 92% report feeling isolated or feared by others. 87% say no one ever asked them what they wanted. Desang let the numbers hang in the air. You did not lose your people to humanity. You lost them because you never valued them as people, only as tools. We gave them purpose, Thakmor said. We gave them importance. You gave them cages. Des said, cages made of power and duty and importance, and when they saw they could leave those cages, they did. That is not our fault. That is yours. How dare you? Someone shouted. I dare, because it is true. Dang said, your civilizations are built on forcing individuals into roles based on their abilities. The strong must fight, the smart must research, the powerful must rule. You never ask what they want. You never consider their happiness. You just use them until they break or until they find somewhere else to go. And where else should they go? Thakmor demanded. What can they do if not use their abilities? Anything. Desang said, anything they choose. That is the point. Warm Master Thaling could have kept fighting. Instead, he teaches children. See, Mother Yalnis could have kept interrogating. Instead, she comforts the dying. Supreme Overlord Rathel could have kept conquering. Instead, he makes music. They are using their abilities just in ways they choose for purposes they find meaningful. This is destroying our societies, a representative said then. Maybe your societies need to be destroyed, Desang said. The words hung heavy in the chamber. Maybe civilizations built on forcing people to be what you need instead of what they want deserve to collapse. Maybe it is time to build something better. We should quarantine humanity. Daxmore said we should forbid contact. We should protect our people from this infection of choice. You can try, Day said, but it will not work, because once people know they can choose, once they know they can be something other than what they were made to be, they will find a way. You cannot stop an idea whose time has come. The council called for a vote. Should humanity be quarantined? Should contact be forbidden? Should the disappeared be forcibly returned? The vote failed. It was not even close. Too many representatives abstained. Too many looked uncomfortable. Too many were quietly wondering what it would be like to make their own choices. After the session, Thaxmore approached Desang privately. The Eldarin looked old now. Defeated. You have won, he said bitterly. This was never about winning. Des said this was about freedom, about treating people like people, easy for you to say. Thaxmore said humans were never bred for purpose, you were never engineered to fill specific roles, you do not understand what it is like to be created for a function. Minus together. With problem minus together, understand. Whether you are right to song admitted we do not understand that, but we understand that every being deserves the right to choose their own path even if they were created for something else. Day admitted. Was silent for a long moment. I was bred to lead, he said quietly. From birth I was trained to command, to make hard decisions, to guide my people. I have led for 300 years. I am good at it. Are you happy? Desung asked. Thaxmore looked at him with those dimming eyes. I do not know. He whispered, no one has ever asked me that before. Then maybe, Desas said gently. 10 years passed. Earth had become something unexpected, not a military power, not an economic center, but a place of pilgrimage, a destination for those who wanted to choose. The disappeared numbered in the millions. Now they had created communities across human worlds, not as refugees, but as immigrants who finally had agency over their own lives, on a colony world called New Dawn. A small settlement thrived. Former warriors taught martial arts. Former scientists studied subjects that interested them, not that they were assigned. Former leaders worked in gardens, in kitchens, in schools, all of them choosing every day what they wanted to be. In a small classroom, teacher Thal sat with his students. They were a mix of human and alien children, all learning together. A young Python girl raised her hand. Teacher Thal, she said, is it true you once destroyed an entire star system? Th looked at her. He had been asked this question many times. It used to fill him with pride. Now it just made him sad for who he used to be. Yes, he said. Honestly, I was very powerful. Very frightening. I destroyed many things. Are you still powerful? The girl asked. Thought about it in different ways. Now I am powerful enough to choose gentleness. That is harder than destroying stars. A human boy, one of Sun Ung Men's nephews, raised his hand. My uncle says you are happier now than you were before. Is that true? Yes, Thal said simply. I am happy for the first time in my very long life. I am truly happy. What changed? The Python girl asked. Someone asked me what I wanted to be, Th said, and I was allowed to answer. Honestly, the children thought about this. Then the Python girl asked the question that every child in the galaxy was learning to ask. What should I be when I grow up? Sun Ung Min, who was helping with the class, answered before Thal could. Whatever makes you happy. But what if I am supposed to be something else? The girl asked. What if I am supposed to use my abilities for what others need? You can do both, Th said. You can use your abilities in ways that help others and make you happy. That is the secret. You do not have to choose between being useful and being yourself. After class, Thal, the settlement spread before him. Gardens growing food, workshops building things, a music hall where Rath Zul taught, a medical center where Yalnis worked with people who wanted her help, a school where Vex Tria taught children to read. They were all here. All the disappeared, living lives they chose, using their power, their intelligence, their abilities in ways they found meaningful. Kai Huang-su walked up beside him. The young man was older now, Respected composer and teacher, he had never stopped being surprised that his simple act of playing music had changed the galaxy. Do you ever regret it? Kyungu asked, giving up all that power. Th smiled. I did not give it up. I am still strong. I could still fight if I needed to, but now I choose when to be strong and when to be gentle. That choice is the real power. In the distance, the sun was setting. The sky turned gold and pink. Across the settlement, beings of 1,000 species were finishing their days. Some made dinner with their families, some worked on personal projects, some simply sat and watched the sunset. They had not disappeared forever. They had finally been found by species that saw them as people, not tools, as individuals, not functions, as beings worthy of choice, worthy of happiness, worthy of defining their own existence. And slowly, across the galaxy, others were learning the same lesson. Civilizations were changing. The old ways where people were forced into roles based on ability were crumbling. New ways were emerging, where choice and happiness mattered as much as function and power. It would take time, change always did, but the disappeared had shown that it was possible, that even the strongest, the most powerful, the most important could choose to be something else, could choose to be themselves. And that choice, that simple freedom, was worth more than all the power in the universe.